Om Jnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
This verse begins with the words Yasmin Yataha Yena. These are the three cases in which the Absolute Truth can be understood. In whom, from whom, by whom. What is the origin of the manifestation, cosmic manifestation? In whom or in what does it rest? And by whom is everything done? So these questions have been asked by philosophers since time immemorial. The answer is given very clearly here. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yad prayanti abhisangvishanti tad vijigyasasva tad brahmeti. The Absolute Truth is described as He from whom everything comes, maintained, in whom everything rests. That Absolute Truth is the proper subject of inquiry. Tad brahmeti, that is the Absolute Truth. So what is that Absolute Truth? When it is described in these words, yato va imani bhutani jayante, or janmadyasya yataha, it may be interpreted by non-devotees as something impersonal. What is written in the Upanishads especially, and also in the Brahma Sutra, that is misinterpreted by the Mayavadis. Therefore the Puranas are necessary. Purana, one meaning of Purana is that which makes Purana, that which makes complete. In the Upanishads it is written like this, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, in whom, by whom, from whom. But that may be interpreted impersonally also. So to very clearly give the proper information, the Puranas are there. That Janmadi Asya Yataha, that source of everything. Janma Adi means Srishti, Sthiti, Pralay, creation, maintenance and destruction. Yasmin Yena Yat, in whom, by whom, from whom. That source of everything is Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadi Asya Yataha Param Satyam Dhimahi. The obeisances are offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, Krishna, who is the source of everything, in whom everything rests, by whom everything is done, who is the Supreme Absolute Truth who is to be meditated upon. The Brahma Samhita is quoted here in Prabhupada's purport also. Brahma Samhita, this 5th chapter, is this is a summary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So very clearly everything is described in this first verse of the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Controller. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He does not have a material body. His form is entirely spiritual. Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of everything. By him everything is done. So this again parallels Yasmin Yat Yena. In whom, from whom, by whom. But here it is very clearly defined. There is no question of misinterpretation. That this Yasmin Yena Yat is not an impersonal force, but is a person, Krishna, who has his transcendental form. He is not formless. He has his eternal, spiritual form full of bliss and knowledge. It is He who is the origin of everything. He, the person, Krishna. So this one verse smashes millions of bogus ideas. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satyat Ananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. Emphatic. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has his eternal, transcendental, spiritual, blissful form. He is the origin of everything. There is nothing before him. He is not caused by any other cause, for he is the cause of all causes. He is the ultimate substantive principle within the universe and beyond the universe also. Generally people, they think of God as someone who creates the universe. That's all he's got to do. So God does that. But that's not his main business. He is, just like for the government, they may build a prison house, but the government doesn't become famous for that. That is an incidental activity of the government. It's necessary and it's important, but it's not the main business of the government. So Krishna creates, maintains and destroys the material worlds, but that is Ekanshena sthito jagat, just with a particle of his energy, he is maintaining the universe. His real interest is not creating the universe, punishing the sinners, but in dancing with the gopis and playing on his flute. And all the other amazing pastimes that he performs eternally in the spiritual world. Chintamani prakarasatmasu kalpavraksha lakshavriteshu surabhira vipalyantam lakshmi sahasrashata sambramasevymanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. This is God. He is a cowherd boy, transcendental cowherd boy. Why? Because he wants to be. He's God, he can do whatever he likes. And he happens to like the cows, and the cowherd boys, and the cowherd ladies. That is his choice. In the previous last few verses, it has been discussed how we cannot understand God by our own sensory application or intelligence. But he will reveal himself as he likes to those who he favors. Then he can be understood. Just like the sun cannot be understood in the nighttime by bringing a candle. Or even if you bring big floodlights, you can't see the sun. But when the sun rises by his own wish, then you can see everything and you can see yourself clearly also. So to some limited extent we can understand the nature of God by our logical process. At least we can understand there must be a God. If anyone says there is no God, he's simply insane, that's all. He should be put in the insane asylum. And most of them do end up actually in an insane asylum. You find like this Picasso, madman, Van Gogh, madman, Freud, absolute madman. If you see all the order in the universe and you come to the conclusion that it's just Yasmin, Yena, Yat. There's no Yasmin, there's no Yena, there's no Yat. It's just there. Just like if you come to this village and you see there's so many houses and you say, how did they come into being? No, it just was there one day. The house was not built by anybody. It's not being maintained by anybody. And they'll say, well, you can't live here. We have one very nice insane asylum, just 20 kilometers. You better go there. You're a madman. You're not fit to live among sane people. So if you say there's no God, the whole universe is simply going on by chance. Just like there's one of the more than 100 scientific so-called scientific theories of the origin of the universe. They're not scientific, it's just wild guesswork. So one of the theories is that there was absolute nothingness, which is not even possible to imagine. There was no mass, there was no matter, there was absolutely nothing. Then all of a sudden, there was everything. It just existed all of a sudden. These people are called scientists, madmen, that's all. Pagale ki na bole, chagale ki na kai. That Prabhupada quoted one Bengali saying. Chagale ki na kai. Prabhupada was told something about some scientific theory, something about some comment. Anyway, he said that Bengali saying chagale ki na kai means what is there that a goat will not eat? Goat eats everything. It eats sacks, plastic bags. If you put the washing on the clothesline, it'll eat that. So chagale ki na kai and pagale ki na bole. What is the same thing? What is there that a madman cannot say? Yes, all of a sudden everything came from nothing. Boom! This is science. So this is all nonsense, nescience. So actually God exists. God has given us some intelligence, and we're supposed to use that intelligence to understand that I'm very tiny and I'm subordinate to God. Although we have the independence to misuse our intelligence to deny God also. Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart. From me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. So if someone wants to forget Krishna, Krishna will give them the intelligence by which they can forget him forever. They'll make so many intelligent theories, very intelligent. There was nothing, then all of a sudden everything existed. Very intelligent. They'll get a Nobel Prize for the best talker of nonsense this year. Very complex nonsense he speaks. Many big long words. And no one can understand what he's saying, it's so complex. Therefore it must be very intelligent. Give him a Nobel Prize, and he can get more money to go and make more research and talk more nonsense. This is like the story of the emperor's new clothes. Everyone could see that the emperor is a rascal. He's walking in the street with no clothes on. Everyone could see. Emperor? You must know this story. Hans Christian Andersen. You only read philosophical books when you were a kid. You didn't read it. Hans Christian, everyone knows the story of the emperor with no clothes. Everyone except Drishta Prabhu knows the story. So then the boy said he's got no clothes. No one wanted to recognize for the sake of prestige. If it was said that if anyone couldn't see the emperor's clothes, then they were a fool. So the same way in modern society, the propaganda is that if you don't accept all the things that modern scientists say, you're simply a fool. You believe that God created the universe? That's just a childish theory. This is Freud's contribution. He said belief in God is childish. Because we think of God as a Supreme Father, that means it's a psychological need that we're carrying from our childhood to have a father. Rascal doesn't recognize that, yes, you have to have a father. Freud he doesn't just exist one day. He had a father and a mother. So how can you deny the Supreme Father? That Freud's father, he also had a father. And his grandfather also had a father. And the Supreme original Father, Anadiradir Govinda, is Govinda. So these things can be understood by a little bit of intelligence. People's intelligence is polluted by foolish ideas. And they think if they think any other way, that they become fools, just like in the story of the Emperor's new clothes. Hare Krishna. So this is the work of the Hare Krishna movement. There are many things to do in this movement. One of them is fighting with atheism all over the world. Prabhupada in one lecture, he said, worshipping Krishna, that is our internal matter. In our temples, we worship Krishna. That is for the devotees. And our mission is to fight atheism all over the world and establish Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are so many bogus ideas. There is no God. There are many gods. There are many gods means you come to the same thing. There is no God. If you say everyone is supreme, that means no one is supreme. Supreme means one only. Asamurdhava, he to whom no one is equal, and no Asamurdhava means no one or no person or thing is equal to him or superior to him. There are so many bogus ideas. Here's the right idea. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality. Therefore we worship these books. We distribute these books because these books are Krishna. These books deliver Krishna. Who is Krishna? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. For destroying all wrong ideas which are the cause of so much distress in this world. In the name of liberality, morals, fair play. So many ideas the karmis are propagating. But simply they are suffering and causing others to suffer because they don't recognize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything comes, in whom everything rests, and by whose energy everything is done. So our movement is an educational movement. That's why we have classes regularly. We study these books and we teach these books. We distribute these books just to give the right knowledge by which people can be delivered from birth and death. Maya mugdha jive nahe Krishna shatragyan Jivere kripae koile Krishna ved puran. The bewildered, conditioned souls, they cannot understand Krishna. Matiya na Krishne paratasvato vamito bivhadyeti grihavratanam adanta gobhir vishatang misram punah punascharvita charvananam. Many times we read about, at least in the Western countries, now it must be coming here, about careers. Career, maybe you don't even know the word. It probably doesn't come in communism. I don't know. It means, like, a career means a career as a businessman or career as a scholar.
We'll have
you do, huh?
similar.
Communism was supposed to destroy all that. That everyone's just all the same. Everyone's just a worker, Shudra. And so, so Prahlad Maharaj in this verse explains what is the career of the materialist. His career is a career into hell. Career, another use of the word, means an uncontrolled journey. Just like someone driving a car, but it's out of control. It's going fast and he can't control the steering or the brakes or anything. So that is the materialist's life. That is the materialist's life, uncontrolled senses. Adanta Gobhir. And because of uncontrolled senses, they're entering into hellish conditions of life and repeatedly chewing that which has already been chewed. Because Matya na Krishna, they're not inclined to be Krishna conscious. Even by their own so-called religious methods or so-called meditation, That's called svata, their own endeavors. Or parata, by the endeavors of others. Nor by attending big conferences, World Parliament of Religions, World Peace Conference. All nonsense. Conference nonsense. Nothing, no Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada has quoted several times, also quoted in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It answers the important question, why are there so many different philosophers? And why can't they come to any fixed up conclusion? There have been so many great thinkers in the world, and even today there are many intelligent people. So why can't they tell us what the meaning of life is? Why can't they tell us what the purpose of the universe is? Why the universe has come into existence? How it has come into existence? How we can be free from all suffering? Why is it that we get different opinions from everybody? It would seem very reasonable, the ascending method. This is called the ascending method. It seems very reasonable. The ascending method of acquiring knowledge. Arohana pantha means that you see everything, you observe it, you consider it with your intelligence, and then you come to some conclusion about it. And especially as you develop the field of knowledge, you develop more and more instruments to help you to understand everything. It seems that if you are intelligent, rational, then you should be able to come to some proper conclusion. And they do come to conclusions. Many, many conclusions. In the word of one so-called great Indian philosopher who was actually a great rascal, Jato mat tata pat. As many opinions as there are, that many paths. Now actually philosopher, that's too good a word to use for him. Just call him a rascal. No philosophy. No, that's not philosophy. It's not philosophy, it's just a slogan, that's all. So they're coming to a conclusion, but the problem is that there's so many different conclusions, which means it's not actually a conclusion, because the real conclusion is only one. What is actually a fact is only one, not many. For instance, if we say this lota is resting on this table, that automatically means that it's not on the floor. It's not suspended in midair. It's not in my. I'm not holding it in my hand. It's not in the room downstairs where I'm staying. There are so many possibilities where it could be, but the actual fact right now is that it's here. So in the same way we may postulate so many different theories, but the actual fact, what is the cause of the universe, what is the reason for the existence of the universe, that is only one. The word for conclusion in Sanskrit is siddhanta. It means that you perfectly come to the conclusion. Other words are the similar word, Vedanta. Vedanta means the conclusion of knowledge. The conclusion of knowledge. So Vedanta means siddhanta. The word for philosophy in Sanskrit is darshan, which means to see. Philosophy doesn't mean that you dream up some idea in your head, but rather you see things as they are. Now we see Srila Prabhupada, he discussed different philosophies. I was reading recently Prabhupada's discussions about Western philosophers. And most of them, after discussing one or 2 points, they just say, how can you discuss about this? It's such nonsense. Because they have no fixed standard of knowledge, just whatever they think with their tiny brain. So that's not actually philosophy. Philosophy, that comes from the Greek philosophia, which means love of truth. But now they take philosophy to mean whatever opinion you dream up with your own stupid brain. So Prabhupada used to say, this is not philosophy, this is fool-osophy. Now, actually Vedic philosophers, we can't even discuss. Actually, we can't even properly discuss with these people. Because in Vedic understanding, discussion means discussion upon the Vedas. We can discuss with Mayavadis. We can discuss with followers of Sankhya philosophy, followers of Karma Mimamsha, Yoga. So many different philosophies are there. We can discuss with them, even though their so-called philosophy, they're also nonsense, because they come to the wrong conclusion. But at least we can discuss because they accept the Vedas. And as soon as you don't accept the Vedas, you're considered uncivilized. Vedna manya bodh hoita nastik. Because they don't follow the Vedas, the Buddhists are rejected as useless atheists. You sit like this. And they are considered not even civil, they're counted among the group of uncivilized. Dharmadeh, Malecha, Bodh, Pulinder, Shavar. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu analyzed, when he was giving examples of uncivilized people, he gave the example as Buddhists. So actually, all these Western philosophers, our whole approach is completely different. Because they have no fixed standard of knowledge. It's only what I think. And that may change all the time. It's like one of the most famous so-called philosophers of the 20th century is this atheist Bertrand Russell. So his philosophy changed several times throughout his life. At least he was fixed on one point. He was certain there was no God. Well, now he knows better. Too late. He met God. Can you show me God? Don't worry. Just wait, you'll see him. You'll see God in the form of death. Mrityu sarva haraschaham. You'll see God taking away everything. Your big, big brain. Your prestige as a philosopher. Now you'll have the big, big brain of a big, big dog or a big, big cat. So this is the analysis. Why are there so many different philosophers spoken? Because people are not sincere to understand Krishna. Therefore they want to avoid Krishna by speaking philosophy, which is absurd. Because philosophy means to understand the absolute truth. But they are speaking philosophy actually with the aim to avoid the absolute truth. They may say we want to understand the absolute truth. They may call themselves Brahmavadis, which means those who are followers of the path of the absolute truth. But actually in their hearts they're envious of Krishna. They want to be known as a great philosopher, or they want to have some intellectual sense gratification, but they're envious of Krishna. Therefore they cannot understand. Even they say, show me God. But even if God, if you're envious, then even if God comes personally, directly in front of you and shows you all his opulences, you will reject. Just like when Krishna was personally present here, so many people saw and heard about his wonderful pastimes. And those who are pious, they came to the conclusion that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But others like Shishupal, they saw the same, they saw and heard in the same way, but they rejected. No, this is not God. One time, Krishna, he went to the court of Dhritarashtra to sue for peace. This was just before the Kurukshetra war he was trying to avoid. And after giving all the different reasons why they shouldn't fight, Krishna said, look, I'm God. And I support the Pandavas. You don't have any chance. And just to prove that he was God, he showed the universal form there. And even Dhritarashtra, who was blind from birth, by the special blessing of Krishna, got the opportunity to see that. And Duryodhana also saw. But he said, this is just some magic trick. Just some big show by mystic power. So even if the demons, they say, show me God, but even if you show them, they won't accept. They're determined to avoid God. That is the meaning of a demon. He'll rather go to hell. He'll knowingly suffer repeated birth and death. He'll undergo all kinds of difficulties, birth after birth, just to maintain his proud sense of independence, that I don't have to surrender to God. You don't have to surrender to God. But if you don't, you will suffer repeated birth and death. Klesha, klesha, nishesha, unlimited miseries. But they're so demoniac and foolish, they'll, oh yes, all right, let me suffer this, but I will keep my own philosophy. I won't surrender to Krishna. So Krishna, he gives wrong intelligence to such people. They're dreaming up so many absurd theories to deny God, but they don't know that the intelligence to do that is coming from God. They're so proud of their own intelligence, but they don't know that very soon that intelligence will be withdrawn because they're misusing it, either at death or even before. Just like that Dr. Radha Krishna, he was the president of India, first president of so-called independent India. So he was famous as a great philosopher. But his philosophy was that when Krishna says, always think of me, it is not to the person Krishna we should think of, but to the unborn, eternal within him. So just to save him from making more and more offenses, God arranged that he will become paralyzed. So in his old age, the ex-president of India, famous philosopher, was simply sitting like a vegetable. Can't speak, can't talk, can't walk, can't do anything. And still they will deny. Won't admit that there is a supreme controller over me. Still he's thinking, I am God, this is my Leela. What a rascal. They have the theory the hog is eating stool, that is God's having his Leela. Most offensive. It's not God's Leela, it is suffering. And you also have to go to that position to suffer. You think this is God having his Leela and you think that you are God, okay, you go and have that Leela. Who is actually God, he will force you to take such a position. They don't know what is the meaning of God. God means the controller. He controls others, but he is not controlled by others. But by fantastic imagination, Mayavadis think that I am independent and whatever is happening is just by my desire. So it's amazing how they can think these things. That people, they actually do this. They sit on the side of a mountain early morning, and when the sun rises, They think, now I am making the sun rise. Such foolish rascals. And now I'm making the sun rise. The sun is going to rise anyway, nothing to do with you. So this is the stuff of philosophy, to dream up all kinds of bogus ideas, which seem to be very good. They seem to be based on logic and intelligence. But actually all these theories, they are logically weak, because they're not the truth. The truth is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, by applying logic, we can defeat these philosophies. We see that Srila Prabhupada, he traveled all over the world and met with all different kinds of people. And whatever ideas they brought to him, he would defeat them. Because he was fixed on the platform of the absolute truth. He didn't study all their different philosophies. How can you? You can't study them all, because there are as many crazy ideas as there are crazy people. And there are as many crazy people in this world as there are people. Apart from the devotees, everyone is a madman. But Prabhupada was able to answer everybody because he was fixed in the knowledge of the absolute truth. And Prabhupada wanted his followers to do this also. In one lecture he was saying that it's very good to praise your spiritual master, you should do that. But the real glorification is to go out and preach, and fight with the non-devotee, and defeat their bogus ideas, and establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is real praise of your spiritual master, because that means you've really learned from him. Guru teaches, and the proper sign of the disciple is that he has learned so nicely that he can defeat others. So this is one of the purposes of the Krishna conscious movement, to establish the proper idea within society. The proper idea is Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there will always be different ideas. It's not that we're going to convince everybody in the world. There will always be someone avoiding Krishna. But by spreading this Krishna conscious philosophy, by preaching strongly everywhere, we can have a strong effect, no doubt. At the moment, the whole world is going on the wrong idea. And it's difficult to establish the right idea. Because everyone thinks, well, I can think whatever I like. I can think whatever I want to think. Due to Mayavad, everyone thinks that everyone is individually an authority. This idea that everyone should be allowed to think whatever they like is bogus. We should learn by hearing from authorities what is the actual fact. This is one of the predominating features of the modern world view, that everyone should just be allowed to think whatever they like. Everyone is equal. Bogus. It's not true. Who has studied, who has got knowledge of Shastra, how can they be considered equal to someone who is not? It's not that everyone's all equal, all the same. Then why should anyone go to school? Or if you go in the mathematics exam and you write the completely wrong answer, and you should write at the bottom, you should give me 100% because this is my opinion. In my opinion, 2 + 2 = 5. It's my opinion. You should give me full marks. And I'm just as good as anybody else. No, you're not. You're a fool. You got 0 marks in your examination. And this is their hypocritical position. On one hand, they say we're very scientific. On the other, they say you should have it. When it comes to philosophy, religion, whatever you like, whatever your opinion is. So this idea is simply produced by envy, that everyone can think whatever they like. Because the actual situation is that we have to follow authority. Authority means those who know. Tattvadarshi. We have to approach Tattvadarshi, one who knows, one who has seen the truth. And how to approach Tadviti Pranipatena in full humility, bowing down. But that they don't like to do because they're envious. Many times in the Western countries, when people see we're bowing down to the deity, bowing down to Guru, then they become, upset. Why are you training them to bow down? They consider this demeaning or belittling. Do you know what that means? You shouldn't bow down to anyone. This Prabhupada, in 1968 in Seattle, at the end of one lecture, someone said to him, he saw everyone bowing down. One guest came in the temple. He said, well, I don't see why I should bow down to anyone. Prabhupada said, yes, this is your disease. You don't want to bow down, you will be forced to bow down. You will be forced to bow down by birth, death, old age and disease. If you don't bow down before Guru and Krishna, then you'll have to fall down on the ground, dead, and then bow down before Yamaraj. Another time Prabhupada explained that understanding means standing under. You can actually begin to understand when you accept the humble position. Jnane prayasam utapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya varitam. This is how we get knowledge. First of all, we give up our puffed up idea that, I'm a big philosopher, I can understand everything by my own intelligence. Then very humbly we hear from self-realized devotees of Krishna. Not that we dispense with intelligence. I mean, not that we give up intelligence. People think that accepting authority means giving up your intelligence. It doesn't. But it means applying our intelligence, training our intelligence in a disciplined manner. Just like when you go to study mathematics at the college, it doesn't mean that you give up your intelligence by following the system of instruction, but it means that you apply your intelligence according to a system. So it's not that intelligence is given up, but it's not just left wild. It's applied to understand what are the actual facts. Accepting that there are those who have already understood the actual facts of existence. So, speculative philosophy and Vaishnava philosophy, there is a complete difference in the methodology. One school, they more or less rely on their own speculation, and the other simply accepts, which is given by Krishna. Just like Arjuna. Arjuna said to Krishna, I simply accept everything that you have told me. And if we take such an attitude,